Relief for Sarri. The British papers going big on it. Sarri's Euro break. Of course, he didn't start Jorginho in the win against Malmo and came out and defended him. Jorginho came on to booze later on in the game for the Chelsea crowd. Sarri says he thinks our performance in the first 30 minutes showed how important Jorginho is to this team because it's harder to get out of a half when the opposition press when he isn't playing. Of course, he'd already come out and had words about N'Golo Kante, hadn't they, just the day before, saying Kante in that position, I want to play a player who's able to move the ball very fast. This is not the best characteristic of N'Golo. N'Golo is useful for us, but this isn't his best characteristic. This is just not going to go away, guys, is it?
No, it is not. And so Jorginho didn't start today, so you would think, well, this is a perfect opportunity to play N'Golo Kante in his best position where he may be, arguably, the best defensive midfielder in the world. No. You thought you were going to get N'Golo Kante there? No, sir. No.
That would be too easy.
It would be too stubborn for that. And so there's no chance. So Kovacic then plays into that position. Now, here's the part that I don't quite understand. For France, World Cup winner, by the way, N'Golo Kante can play in that position. For Chelsea, Premier League champion, N'Golo Kante can play that position. Leicester City, Premier League champion, N'Golo Kante can play that position. But for this Chelsea and this coach and this manager, N'Golo Kante, that's not his best characteristic. So his best characteristic is playing out wide in an advanced position. Is that where you get the best out of N'Golo Kante? No chance.
Doesn't pass the ball quick enough, Stevie.
Well, it's a bit of a problem if you're the best player in the country, according to everybody else over the last couple of years, but you can't pass the ball.
Right.
How does that work out? Absolute nonsense. The guy's trying to justify playing Jorginho every time, and to say that it showed up tonight with him not there is completely getting rid of the whole Mullins and Manchester you were talking about, and Tottenham and Bournemouth and everywhere else where they couldn't get out. So this is called cover your backside time. That's what this is.
Paolo, let's bring you on this as someone who watched Maurizio Sarri and Jorginho week in, week out and saw it work so well for Napoli. What's your take on what's going on here?
I mean, I am to a great degree in agreement with everyone who feels like Kante is not being used as well as he can be, not getting the most out of him at the moment, Maurizio Sarri. But I do think that we need to acknowledge that these are different formations. I mean, you look at where he played for France, where he played for Leicester. Those are 4-4-2s in which he was, yes, a defensive midfielder, but he also did carry the ball forward from that position because when you're playing a 4-4-2, you only have two guys in the middle and you have to have a certain degree of movement from both of them. The way that Sarri's team lines up with the three in midfield, you have Jorginho in the middle of it sitting deep, and that does force Kante out of the central role, gets him going up and down, and it restricts part of what he does really, really well, which is covering the defence, sitting in front of the defence. I agree that he's not being used right, but I also think that if you switched him into Jorginho's role, you would still be denaturing him because you would still be making him sit in one place there. Jorginho doesn't run up and down. He doesn't get box to box in the same way that Kante does. So either way you're taking something away from him. The only way to get him back playing as he was, again, for France or Leicester is to change your formation to suit him. Now, you could do that, and perhaps Sarri should be more flexible, but I think that in a current formation, there isn't an ideal role for him, and that's part of the problem.
So why doesn't Sarri just switch to a 4-4-2 to utilise Kante?
So Sarri is an ideologue. There are football managers who are pragmatists. There are football managers who change constantly and adapt to the players they have. And there are football managers you see who have very clear identities and ideas of the sort of football that they think is the correct way. And Sarri is that for better or worse. And I think it's why you listen to, in Italy, Arrigo Sacchi has so much admiration for him, is because Sacchi was exactly the same. Sacchi had his idea of how football was supposed to be, and it was going to be that, hell or high water. And I think that Sarri is built the same way. He has his way of playing, and it's been fantastic. It got Napoli 91 points last season. It's been tremendously effective, but it may not be the best thing specifically for the personnel he has right now at Chelsea.
Paolo, specifically with Jorginho, why did it work so well in Italy, and why is it failing so miserably in England?
You could give 100 answers to that question. It's part about the guys alongside. I think you've had a player in Alan next to him at Napoli who absolutely was built to shuttle up and down. And you had Marek Hamsik as well, who the same. These are guys who absolutely were designed to fill that role that Kante is perhaps a little bit out of sorts in. You had a league where it has to be said the game is played slightly differently and more, it's cliche, but it's still true that the game does play at a slower pace in Italy. It does have a slightly more tactical bent to it, and perhaps that's some part of it as well. He was pressed a little bit less aggressively, although I would argue that Alan also was really important in protecting him. Alan was very physical where he needed to be and understood that his role sometimes was to take the pressure off Jorginho. And perhaps it's about having teammates as well who've really bought in and know exactly where they're supposed to be to give Jorginho those quick outs, to give them the quick ball. I think that you see flashes of it even now with Chelsea. In fact, I think even in this game tonight, you look at the first goal and the run that Kante makes and the ball to Willian. You could go back to last season and see Alan making exactly the same run and laying it off for Insigne. You could find that really easily. So there are flashes of it at Chelsea, but there's just not that perhaps instinctive awareness amongst teammates of where each other are that he had when he was at Napoli.
What do you make of it, boys?
Well, you know what's funny is that when N'Golo Kante wins that ball in the midfield today and goes on that long run and then lays the ball to Willian, and Willian eventually gets the ball across to Giroud, the Sarri apologists will say, well, that's why you have N'Golo Kante in that position in a more advanced role. Okay, well, here's the thing. Truthfully, objectively, if you're depending on N'Golo Kante to be the guy who drives your team forward and is the guy who's going to provide you assists and is going to break other teams down, this is not going to work. We said that at the beginning of the season. We said it midway through the season. And I'll continue to say it because you're not getting the best out of your player. The best defensive midfielder in the world, you're using it out of position.
Who were they playing today?
That's Malmo.
Malmo.
Yes.
Oh, Malmo, sorry. It wasn't Barcelona then?
No, it was not.
No.
Yes, your point is?
I'm sorry. Listen, so let's cut through all the teammates and Alan and all this other stuff. The fact is, Serie A, physically, as far as pace is concerned, is a walk in the park compared to the Premier League teams. They don't defend from the front anywhere close to what teams do in the Premier League. So when you get through all that, basically, Jorginho is not good enough to do that job in the Premier League. That's a fact. The biggest problem players have when they come from a league that's not quite as good as the one they go to is the pace of the game. They have to do things quicker than they're used to doing. Jorginho has shown he can't adapt to the pace of the Premier League against proper teams, and he's never going to.
Paolo?
I mean, I disagree with that. I think that inferring from one season that a player can never adapt, I mean, there's plenty of examples you could find going through Premier League history of
Paolo,
players that take some time to adapt. That's not...
I'm kind of repeating what you said. And Serie A, he doesn't have to do that. You said it, not me.
But you extrapolated something that I didn't say, which is that because it isn't working right now, it can never work. I think that there's a tendency in all sorts of, all over football journalism, we do this. We see someone not doing something right now, and we say, oh, he can never do it. And there's loads of examples of that not being true. There's lots of players who do better even in their 30s than they played in their 20s. Of course, there's a possibility he can adapt. I would agree that he's not right now playing at the level we saw last season in Italy. I don't think it's impossible that he can get there.
By the time it happens, Sarri may be gone, though.
Listen, I'll take that back. He's got a point there. It's hard to say he could never do it.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you what, how's he going to get the chance?
Right.
Yeah, he may be able to do it, but under different conditions and with a player alongside him that is willing to do the running defensively and get box to box. He just mentioned Allen. Well, that's what we're talking about here. So in order to do that, then you have to adjust. And in order to adjust, you have to be a little bit less stubborn with the formation so that then you can get players around him to get the best out of him, which goes back to the original point. The job of a manager, of a coach at any level and any league is to recognize what the players that you have available and make sure that you get the best out of those players. And if you do that, more times than not, you're going to get positive results. It's not happening at Chelsea right now.